Hi, it's Candy, and welcome to Cocktails and Candy, where we have cocktails and share stories of success. And today's episode is sponsored by Golden Watts. They are an Asian-owned cognac that won double gold award for the World Spirits competition, making them one of the best cognacs in the world. Now, what makes them special is not only Asian, they're Cambodian, which is what we are. And I'm super proud of them because it is so hard for Cambodians to start a business because most of us are refugees that survived the genocide. And to me, I get so happy, teared up, and so proud of this company because they actually can be found in stores. What is that store that we...
Total Wine?
Total Wine, yes. Oh my gosh, when I went down that aisle, I was like, my heart was just like, wow, like I am so proud of them and their journey. So before we get into today's special guest, I want her to try out the cognac. Let us know what you think.
Sure.
Cheers.
It's a little bit heavy for me, just because I'm not into like hard liquor, but it's nice. It goes down really smooth.
Which is like really weird because you're Cambodian.
I know.
It's really weird because you're Cambodian.
I'm a wine person. I'm actually a wine person, and so I do like. But whenever we go to weddings and stuff, you always see the cognac and the Hennessy, so it always comes out.
Yes.
And I'm always like,
the Remy's, the Remy's, the Henny's,
that's
all
right.
the cognacs is
That's
like
right.
what we drink. So yeah, that's really crazy to hear that you're really
But I'm
different.
very but I'm very proud to know that there are a hard liquor and it's made by one of our own. So that's really nice.
So I'm really proud of them.
Thank you.
So let's get into talking about you.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love to have you. I was very excited to have you as a guest. One, because I just moved to Texas, so I don't really know too many Cambodians. And then on top of that, Cambodians aren't really known to have businesses who are outside the box, and which really threw me off guard was like, okay, I'm not the only one that's doing things that are different. So you actually have a trade school, North Texas Tint Institute, where you help people, you train people and teach people how to tint.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So tell us a little bit more about that, and then we'll kind of get into
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've been following you, so I've kind of been secretly stalking you, but I love it. I
have stalkers all day long.
In a good way, because it's so empowering to see another, woman that is, you're in tune with yourself, and I love that about you. I think that is really wonderful that you know what you want. You're a go-getter just like me, and
fire sign.
Yeah. And just also being Cambodian. I think being able to step outside of the box has always been something that I embrace. I've kind of beat to my own drum. I've known that from as far as being little, that I wasn't going to be the one that's like, oh, she's predictable. I like just being able to be unpredictable and just kind of, I mean, everything that your previous guest had mentioned, Harry, I like to the T fall into like all those things. But again, just being an individual, being unique and embracing who I am and not just following the herd. So I've always liked that about myself. And then, just coming here to the U.S., I didn't have an excuse to just be mediocre, because my grandfather was a 5-star general, so I grew up in a military household. My dad was also in the military. My stepdad was in the military, so the discipline was always there. So we grew up where all the boys in our household had chili bowl haircut because it was a military style, and then we were also taught to be seen and not to be heard. And when we had guests over, our parents would literally line us up. We would come and sit in the living room all in a row. There was 5 of us, and they would basically have us go down the line and introduce ourselves. We would to all of the elders, and then we would sit there quietly and wait for my mom or my dad to beckon us to say, okay, you're ready to go. So it was a very, very strict household. My grandmother, who's Vietnamese, God rest her soul, my grandma Kim Quat Nguyen, she's Vietnamese, very,
so do you
very.
know Vietnamese too, or?
You know what, I'm not going to say yes or no. I do get by. I have a lot of Vietnamese friends, so I can kind of pick up a lot of the stuff. I know when they're talking crap about me or whatever, you know.
I know, like
but
1 to 10 and eat rice and use the bathroom.
There
That's
you
all
go.
I know.
But yeah, just to get by. But my grandmother, she's Vietnamese, and oh my gosh, she was one of those very poised, very by the book type of woman, and she literally taught us how to be young ladies. And I love that about her, because I always wanted to make sure that I knew how to, you know, it sounds awful to say this, but she was a woman of her 20s, like in the 20s, right? Where she cooked and cleaned and took care of her household, right? I mean, she ran that household, and she taught all of the girls in her household to do that. Even though now the norm is, you know, we don't have to go, oh, you can be a housewife and cook and clean. I do that because I love that. I love taking care of my family. So it's not about, I can't go out and work outside the home and be a superwoman and then come home and not, oh, that's not my job. And so I love doing both. And I think my husband appreciates that, because he, you know, we were talking earlier on the side about some of the characteristics is, you know, he's a very machismo man, but at the same time, he is one of those that supports me. And being a woman and being a career woman, and also making sure that my responsibility at home has that good balance. So,
Well, I kind of feel like that's part of like
our culture. Yeah.
Right. So my husband says the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like, well, we don't need a housekeeper. You can do everything. I'm like, dude.
Yeah. And honestly,
I doesn't mean I want to do everything.
Yeah.
Just like instilled in us that we can work and take care of the household.
That's right.
And still have
a good balance.
We can function.
Yeah.
You know, and I think he's always like compliment me on that. But sometimes I'm like, do I really want to do both? But yeah.
And I still serve my husband. Like, it's so crazy. People are like, what do you mean you serve your husband? I said, I serve my husband's plate. I mean, when I'm cooking. And I don't do that because, oh my God, we're supposed to. I do that because I want him to make sure that he eats everything that I cook. You know, so
on time.
And on time.
Yeah, because like it's hot and I don't want to ruin my food because you want to put it in the microwave. So I'm like, hey, it's food time to eat.
Yeah.
So I do exactly the same
so
thing.
It's not about, oh, I'm below my husband or anything. It's I know my role as a wife, and I know, you know, he is the leader of the house, and I love that because we follow the biblical rule of, you know, he is the man of the house. He leads, you know, faithfully. He leads us. All of that. So I don't mind.
This is a funny topic because like the original Cocktails and Candy was all about relationships, and like would be like one of the topics where like people do, I think on social media people talk about like, do you still serve your husband? Who comes first, your kids, your husband, whatever. And at home, literally, like everyone eats at the same time. So there's no like, I do serve my husband first because I do, like you said, I want him to eat everything.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage. I think that's what makes our relationship work, is because he knows his role, like his role as leader of our household, and you know, it's not that I'm submitting to him. It's just me knowing that I give him the respect because he's the king of my castle, and I'm his wife, but we're also business partners.
Right.
But we haven't killed each other.
I feel like it still comes back to being Asian in our culture, because like it's like you said, if we had people come over to eat at our house, it's like a thing, like if you don't eat, like you better eat.
Right.
So
we're very hospitable.
Eat my food. Like
we would be offended if you didn't.
Right,
so
I made you eat my food. I made her when she came over to our birthday party, my husband's birthday party. I was like, eat, because it's like an offensive thing. Like
I mean, I grew up with my parents' household. We were the household that all the neighborhood kids come to, because my parents would always have food. And it's funny because we grew up very poor, but we never thought of it as being poor because we always had enough of everything. And my parents were so generous; they were always just feeding the neighborhood kids, and they'll spend the night and stuff. And we became that kind of household where everybody comes over, and I always have way too much in my pantry. My brother and sister, they always laugh at me because they're always like, if an apocalypse happened, we're going to Channy's house, because there's always plenty of stuff in the pantry. And so my daughter makes it an annual thing to come over. Kennedy comes over and she'll clean my pantry every 6 months because I'll have stuff in there that just,
you know. You feel like it's also like trauma based?
You know what? I think so.
Like
because my mom.
Sure, like food's in the house.
Yes.
For any kind of like.
Yes.
Anything could happen. And
I feel like I'm in denial of that, but at the same time, I look at how my mom is. My mom does not throw away anything.
Yeah,
my mother, literally, I would go to her house and I'd be like, Mom, what is that in a corner? You need to get rid of that. She's like, no, I'm going to wear it one day. And I'm like, no, Mom, you're not, because it's been sitting there for 6 months to a year now. And I feel like I don't have things in bags. I have things in, obviously put up because I like things to be a little bit nice and organized. But I feel like what you just said, I think it does stem from being, a kid who's gone through war, who has nothing
PTSD.
to eat. Yeah. And even though I can handle my PTSD a little bit better than my parents, I feel like that might be part of, the childhood trauma that I endured, is making sure I have enough of everything. I buy 3 or 4 of everything.
You buy bulk, huh?
Oh my gosh.
My mom does. She
terrible.
has like 10 bags of rice and like 20 packs of water, and like,
yeah.
can I have one? Like,
yeah.
Like, yeah.
I don't buy anything big that is bulk. I never run out of any of toiletries, so I always have plenty of that, shampoos, you name it. Canned food. When my kids have canned food drive, they just go into my pantry and be like, Mom, can we take this? You haven't, so yes. But other than that, I try to keep our home. I'm actually interested in connecting with Harry later because I feel like,
Me too, I'm excited.
I feel like the whole feng shui thing needs to happen. It's getting there. I mean,
I'm telling you, it changed my life. It changed my life. Just
Yeah.
the tidbits that since we worked together.
yeah.
But are you are you the oldest, middle child, youngest?
I am the oldest.
You're the oldest.
Well, I became the oldest after my older brother passed.
Okay,
so there's a total of 7 children.
Okay.
My brother passed
During the war, or?
during childbirth.
Oh, okay.
My mother had a stillborn, and then she had me a couple years later. And then there's a sister named V that ended up dying after she fell from a balcony kind of situation. It was horrible at 2 years old. And then I have a brother. Both him and I have the same dad. And then my mom remarried after the war and had 3 more children. But we grew up in the same household, so I never looked at my sibling as they're not mine or half or whatever. So I'm the oldest of 5 children.
Okay. So I know you said you were born 1973. Okay. How old were you when the war happened?
I was 2, because it broke out in 1975.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were 2.
Yeah.
Do you remember anything?
I don't remember too much, but I have flashbacks.
Okay.
of-
Did you guys stay in the camp?
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you
So
guys made it to
we.
the camp?
Yep. So when it happened, we were at our country home in Bailin. So that's what my granddad and mom told us, that we were in our country home, and they were
Is that
pushing.
center Cambodia or
No,
are there?
Bailin is closer to Thai border.
Okay, so you're on this side.
Yes, so we were closer to the Thai border, and then they were pushing everybody to the Phnom Penh, to the to the killing fields. We never made it to Phnom Penh.
Okay.
We only made it up to as far as Battambang,
Okay.
because Bailin and Battambang are very close. And as they were pushing, we were hiding, and obviously, my mom, little stories here and there.
That's insane to hide. So when your mom had you at 2, was there other siblings with you, or just you alone?
So my brother wasn't born until like Battambang, like when she was already
was pregnant.
yes. So and then that's when my father was actually taken away. My real father.
Right.
He was taken away because I realized he's not a farmer. I mean, he's light skinned. My dad is 6'4", Mongolian, Chinese.
So your father, you've never met your father?
I never got to meet
You
him.
think he passed?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay.
Oh yes, yes. The only thing I have is a picture of him, and everybody tells me how much I look like him, but that's it. And then my uncle, who lives in Charlotte.
Which is why you're tall, right?
Yeah.
Because
5'6".
I remember that conversation that you had on
Yeah.
Facebook post about how that lady couldn't
No.
because you were tall, right? Okay,
Gosh.
that makes sense.
I'm 5'6", and then with heels, so I try not to wear too many heels because I'm always like towering.
Sure, I'd be happy. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not like typical Asian height. We're all like American. We're American women height.
Yeah.
So I'd be excited. I'm wearing my heels because I'm gonna be tall.
Yeah.
Tall. I want to be that tall Asian. So yeah.
But like I said, it's one of those things where I went through. I just see little clips. Memory pops up. I just remember maybe when I was about 4. And a family escaped.
Okay, so-
and yeah, like I think we were in Battambang or something, and a family escaped, and they caught them, and they had a towns meeting. This is a very just a really horrible memory that I have of the situation where they took everybody in that camp and had us in a circle and literally had the whole family lined up and one by one execution style. And I was literally, as soon as I heard the first gunshot, I screamed, and I just remember the soldier pointing to my grandmother and saying, "You need to shut her up."
Yeah.
And I don't remember it. I just kind of black out, but got here to the US. I would have these horrible dreams, always being in the dark. Like I'll go into a room and then the wall starts to close in. And that's part of childhood trauma of what you've experienced. And it would just I would just feel so suffocated. And I had that dream for a good, 4 or 5 years.
So when did you guys make it to the camp? How old were you?
So when we left Battambang, we finally made it to Thailand, Khao Dang. I think that's what it was called, right?
Yeah, my brother's named after the camp.
And again, another just very, just spotty memories. I remember joining the ballet they had there and being one of the little dancers. So learning it. So that's why my hands are,
Oh, yeah, we actually might know
yeah.
that.
So we were, the
the
little dancers. We were every morning. We would have, we would do the little exercise in our hands. Don't tell me to dance, I can't. So just little memories like that. But I came to the U.S. and we were sponsored by a church here, the Methodist Church in Bedford, our family, and we came here in 1980. So whenever Harry was talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, like he's literally talking about me. But we came here and lived in Euless, Texas.
Okay, so you came straight to Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
We went to San Francisco first to get all of our paperwork and then got transferred here. We were only in San Francisco for like 2 weeks. And then we finally landed here in Euless. And same thing, I feel like a lot of us around this age, late 40, 50, latchkey kids, raised our siblings, left alone. Parents worked around the clock, so I had very similar, kind of just journey like Harry did, being responsible at a very young age, having to translate, letters from English to Khmer to my parents. I mean, at the age of 5, 6 years old, having to like tell them, hey mom, this is what you need to do. And so there was a lot of pressure to grow up very fast. And I think that's why I am who I am, is because I always had to be the responsible one. I always had to set the good example for my siblings. I kind of hated that responsibility because as I got older, it became more apparent that my mom became stricter and stricter and stricter to where my childhood was not a typical what my son and my daughters went through, where they're getting to go hang out with friends. I didn't do that. I spent a lot of time reading as a child, so my imagination grew really wild because I felt like I've traveled the whole world because through my reading, right? So I'm an avid reader. I love to read. I need to pick it back up again. But that's one of the reasons why I feel like my husband always says, gosh, you know words that I would never know. And I'm like, yeah, but there's just words that, that I picked up through my reading, right? And he was like, how do you know that? So I'm like, it's through my reading. Yeah.
What do you find is like the biggest challenge of you once you made it to America? But growing up, and this is something I like to talk about a lot, is growing up in America in an Asian household, specifically Cambodians, because we're not immigrants, we're actually refugees.
Yeah, we are refugees.
I feel like that's a little bit different. And then tell me like what challenges you faced in that aspect as growing up in Asian culture, but growing up in America.
So being here in the South, I'm going to talk to, a little bit about it just because I feel like...
I want you to say whatever you got to say.
Well, the reason why I feel like, I'm emphasizing a lot on the South, growing up in the 80s, I mean, it was rough, girl. It was rough because we were called every name in the book, you name it. I don't even want to say it, but it was horrible.
The G word?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The C word, yeah.
We're all
yeah. And the whole eye gesture and all that stuff.
And you're not you got
Yeah. Well, and I always kind of knew I was different, but at the same time I knew that, that I'm not. You know what I mean? That they still look at us that we were different, right? So the whole you look different, you whatever. But it was tough. I mean, I grew up in a little town in Haltom City, and Yeah.
It's like,
Back in the days, believe it or not, it was an all-white community. And so you going in, it's you're kind of coming into their territory, right? At the time, I'm stressing at it. And I was a tomboy. I had to be a tomboy. I mean, I felt like I had to because my brothers and sisters were very young. And so they were always getting picked on and being bullied. So I had to be the one that was like, no, you're not going to do that. So I had to stand up to a lot. I remember I broke a boy's nose because he called me a C word. And then when his dad came knocking on my door, or my grandparents' door, they were like, I need to speak to your little boy that punched my son's face. And he was like, it's not him, it's her. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, you let a little girl break your nose? And I was standing there. I was just like ready to fight again, right? And he was so embarrassed. He was like, I'm sorry. So he just left. He took his kid and left. But that boy never messed with my family again. So I always had to defend my brothers and sisters. I always had to be the one that was just like, you're not going to, beat me down or whatever. So it was really tough. I felt like, during that time, racism was really, really bad. And we just had to kind of just power through it.
I feel like even though we're both Cambodian, my dynamic at home was a little bit different than yours. So I wasn't the one like you. I was more timid.
Oh.
So I was bullied a lot growing up. And then my brother is deaf, so we got picked on a lot. One, because we're Asian, and then they made fun of my brother. And my mom used to be so mad at me because I was so timid, and I couldn't stand up for my brother. They even had the neighborhood kids would come and knock on our doors and throw rocks at us.
Oh.
Okay. Because again, we're Asian, and then my brother's deaf. And then my mom actually whooped my ass because she's like, why didn't you defend them? But I didn't have that in me.
Yeah.
Whereas you, I think because you were I'm the youngest, but I was pushed into that role that you had. But mine's a little bit different.
Right.
What was you're talking about challenges that you in America, but what about with your family? Do you find did you find yourself rebelling?
Oh no.
So you were never rebellious?
No. I don't think I was. Okay, so
because American culture and Asian culture is completely different.
Oh my
gosh.
You
never
No, my mom, my mother, she's a dragon in the zodiac sign, so she wore the pants in that house. My grandmother.
That's all Cambodian women.
and I feel like my mom and I clashed because when my grandmother passed away and I was 13, it was like I lived with my grandparents from birth until I was 13. When my grandmother died, my mother kind of stepped in and was just now raising me. My mother lived next door to us, so in our culture, the house was literally next door. But I love my grandparents so much; they love me and they raised me. As soon as my grandmother passed away, it was like this woman and I was just like, okay, now you got to raise me. And she came in and she was scared of everything. So I was afraid to do anything that would be a disgrace to the family. So I followed orders. I was a rule follower growing up. I was afraid to make mistakes, and I wish I wasn't in terms of being timid. I was very timid towards my mom. Like my mom, she was like, if she said right, I'd go right. If she said left. So I did a lot of that because I had to set the example for my siblings. Now my siblings, on the other hand, the rules just went out the window. And I was always so pissed because I was like, why do they get to do what they do and I can't? And they were like, well, you're the oldest. You represent the family. So there was that expectation and that pressure to always represent the family.
Do you find that you're timid towards your mom? Is it because of how she spoke to you, or is just...
My mom and I did not really have a really good relationship from 13 until I was probably 32 years old. That's a long time. I got married to my oldest dad when I was barely 20 years old. And I did it because to please her. And gosh, if he's listening, I feel bad, but he's a great, I will tell you, Kennedy's dad, Monty, he's a great dad, but we were just
She only married you because to make her mom happy, okay?
But it was a wonderful lesson and journey that I went on because I felt like that was my way of becoming my own. Like leaving the house and going into my husband's home was my way of, okay, now I can kind of just be myself. But I learned through that marriage that I wasn't myself, that I was still
trying to please your mom.
I was still trying to please my mom. And then he's very traditional, so he expected a very traditional wife.
Was he also Khmer?
Yes, Thai Khmer. Okay. So I literally was so wrong. But I knew that there was something inside of me like, that's just not me. And one day that butterfly is going to come out, right? And we have a beautiful daughter. Her name is Kennedy. She's 27. And we part ways when she was 2 years old. I was a single mom for a good 5-6 years before I met my current husband.
Okay.
And we're about to celebrate 20 years. Yeah. So, I mean,
Congratulations.
you know, when you,
Happy
thank you, July 8th, yes.
Okay.
But, you know, it's one of those things when you find the right partner in life, you are going to blossom. And when you're finding somebody that's not going to shelter you, which I love because our relationship, we don't sit here and go, you can't do this or you can't do that. As long as we're thinking of the family and how that affects
if it makes
us.
Sense.
Yeah, if it makes sense, right?
Sense, right?
And so, and like I said, it goes back to, not only am I married to this man, I'm also his business partner. Right. And we have, you know, his, mine, and now ours. So we have 4 children. You know, it's a blended family. So just imagine how that is, right? So yeah.
Okay, well, tell me about how you actually got into North Tech. What did you do before that, and then how did you get into, like, let's start this business?
Yeah, so my career started when I started in my 20s. I worked for American Airlines in passenger sales. So I did a lot of just corporate contracts and things like that. So I had a lot of experience in contract negotiation, bringing clients together, you know, getting them business development kind of stuff with American. I left American when I met my husband and then stayed home for a little bit because we were like, okay, he was like, look, we're a blended family. I can't even imagine. I'm throwing, you know, 2 more little girls on your plate, so take the time all you want to kind of help me raise them. And so I did that for a couple years and I got bored. I was like, nope, I got to go back. And so did a little bit of, you know, going into the shipping side and then going into the transportation side. And when that happened in 2007, so we got married in 2006, 2007, he's like, I'm going to start my own business. And I was like, why? I was like, why do you want to do that? And he was like, I know how to tent and I want to start my own tent business. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll support you in that. He did that, but I was still in the corporate world. So I had 1 foot in the corporate world and 1 foot out, right, and trying to help him. I said, I'm only going to help you behind the scene, just doing all your paperwork and things like that to make you look pretty, but and that I don't want to be any part of the business, right? As we kept growing and growing and growing, our CPA kind of took us aside and said, what are you doing, Channy? And I said, what do you mean? He goes like, your business is growing. Why are you still working for somebody? And I was in that whole mindset of, oh, I have the 401k, I have the vacation, blah, blah, blah. So you get caught up in that, right? And he goes, but look at the numbers. Look at the numbers that you are producing in your business. You can all of that, right? Right. And so we ran the numbers and I was like, okay. So I started going in full time at 2010 is when I felt like it was by accident.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah. So I felt like it was by accident that I was kind of like, okay, I'm going into this. And I'm like, I don't know anything about entrepreneurship. So I went back to school. I went to school late, you know, when the kids are asleep, I would go online and I do my online classes and stuff and got my business degree. And we just kept growing our business. So we ran our company from 2007 until just last year. We sold it last year. So we had our retail for the tent business. We had a lot of our corporate clients, like AutoNation was one of our biggest accounts. All the school districts in the area were like because we do flat glass install. So we did all sorts. So it's not just window tinting for cars. It's also for commercial buildings and homes and things like that. And then we had an opportunity last year when somebody came in and said, we want to buy your business. We love everything that you've been doing. And would you sell it to us? And we said, sure.
Oh, so you sold your business?
We sold it last year.
Okay.
Sold it last year, and we were like, okay, I think we can retire now.
Okay.
And
so are you guys officially retired?
No.
Okay.
What's
your next project?
We're because like I said, we can't sit still. We're not, my husband's not quite 50 yet. And so I was able to retire my husband. But he doesn't want to retire, so he's dragged me into this new business. So we were like, okay, we want to stay in the industry. So now we have our own tent school, which is called North Texas Tent Institute.
Okay, North Texas Tent.
What we do there is it is a trade school. Not everybody's route and journey looks the same. We are not against anybody wanting to graduate from high school and going straight into a university and going after whatever they want to go, but we're also want to be there for those that say, you know what, I want to learn a trade. So we opened up our trade school and we teach the trade of window tinting for flat glass, automotive, and then we also do paint protection. It is a trade that we were very successful at, so we want to share that knowledge with other people and mentor anybody that wants to go into that trade. In Texas, I can't imagine you not wanting to have tint on your car.
Right.
So we
Tint
teach
on your
it.
house.
Yeah, tint on your house, tint on your business. So yeah, it's been a huge blessing. We officially have been open for 6 months, and we've officially had 25 students that have graduated from our school. I want to say we're about 100% success rate. Yes, thank you. Every single one of our students that have gone through the program, which is a 5-day training program, hands-on. Yep, it's hands-on. They come in through our course. We give them tools. We feed them. They go through the course for 5 days, and they graduate. And because of our connection in the tent industry, we're able to get them placement and interviews for potential jobs. And majority of them, I would say 99% of them, have gone on to work for a local tent shop here in the Metroplex.
Okay, well, that's really, really impressive. That's totally something that's different. So do you feel like that is thanks to your husband? Like that you actually okay, I'm going to leave airlines and start the business, and your mindset shifted? Or do you feel like you were always an entrepreneur, it's just you needed that push?
No, I feel like I was an accident entrepreneur. I really do. Okay. I never thought I would be so good at it. But then I learned through history, family history, that entrepreneurship has always been in my blood, because my dad, I had no idea that all those people, they've always had their own businesses. So it was always in my DNA. I think it was when I started to see the numbers and it started to make sense. It was when I was like, why am I still in the corporate world when I can literally do, and you know, what I love about being an entrepreneur is that you get to make your own journey. You know, you wake up every day and you're responsible for what comes out of it. If you're not putting in the work, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out of.
Right.
And on top of that, being a woman entrepreneur, like I love the whole, you know, being a woman and being able to, you know, be in that leadership role. And running the show, like for me, prior to us doing the school, I was behind the scene, right? And now that we have the school, now I'm the face of the school. And it's so weird how our role shifted, right? And he's okay with that. Like before, I would just be like, you go out there and you do that and I'll make you look pretty. And then he was like, okay. And then now he's like, nope, I'm just an instructor, right?
It's your turn.
Yeah.
Well, you're very inspiring, and I feel like I want to share stories like yours because all of us didn't come with money. And I feel like a lot of people look at Asian people, oh yeah, you guys came with money, or you're privileged, or whatever it is. Our privilege is maybe a little bit different. We speak on privileges. It's a little bit different.
Our children are, though.
Right. But I feel like the drive is obviously because of how we were brought up.
Yeah.
But I also want to showcase that, like, it doesn't matter who you are, whatever background you're in, experiences you've gone through, all the, you know, trials and tribulations that everyone's gone through something, right? Everyone's gone through something. And I always wanted to highlight you because it's like anyone can do it, right? It's just like you said, it's whatever amount of effort you put in, you get back. And people always want to think that you get it like this, right?
No.
So
you got to work hard.
What advice do you offer entrepreneurs who are trying to get into business who are of immigrant backgrounds?
My advice is just jump right into it. I mean, literally, you will never know if you're going to fail or you're going to succeed if you don't do it. My daughter, who's 27, she's working behind the scene to do something really big, and every day I'm in her ear, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Our kids are lucky.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I and this is not just an advice that I give to my daughters or my son. I give this to anybody that wants to start. Just do it. Like, if you've got an idea and you just plan it out, obviously jot it down, look at all the things, you know, you need to do your research, because you know, there's tons and tons and tons of people out there doing the same thing, but what sets you apart? What makes you unique about what you're doing, right? So you've got to find your niche. You've got to find what sets you apart, because I feel like people follows you because they like you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they can go and pick any, you know, like what you do, right? There's a slew of influencers out there, but they're not Candy, right? And I'm not just saying that because, you know, we're on your show, but I'm just saying they're not you, right? Because you set yourself apart, you know. There's a lot of tent companies out there, tons, and there's a lot of tent school. but why do they want to come to us? It's what sets us apart in how we treat people. And in addition to, just opening up our school, we also have a 501c3.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
So
awesome.
we are, thank you. So we launched a Resilient Education Initiative. Those 3 words mean so much to me, and it resonates so deeply with me because resilient, obviously we're refugees.
Right.
We're so resilient to just all the things that we've gone through. Education was really important to me. I literally, like I said, I knew that education was going to get me out of poverty. So that's why I literally hone in on that, and that was, something that I just love so much. An initiative. I think you and me, we can all make a difference by taking the initiative to change, the youth of today, those that are going through high school and not knowing what they're going to do when they graduate. So for us, having the Resilient Education Initiative is out there for them. It's a scholarship that they can apply for. Our goal through our school is to be able to put 24 students every year through our program without them having to pay our fee. But whatever is left in the foundation, anybody can apply for it.
So anyone can apply for it?
Yeah. We want to be able to open it up to where if a student saying they don't have enough money for books and they want to apply for it, they can literally apply for it. And if we've got the funds to award them, we would be more than welcome and happy to do so. So yeah, and then one last thing is we've got a benefit dinner coming up on November 2nd. We love everybody that...
Am I invited?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It will be held here in Grapevine, Texas. And
not too far,
not too far. And it's a night, like I said, it's a night to come and just celebrate, what we're doing and just our mission of raising funds so that we can award these scholars.
Okay, well, I'm super, super proud of you. To meet other Asian entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs, but specifically Khmer ones, it's very rare do I meet, So I'm very proud of you. Where can people find you?
So we are located at 2229 East Loop 820, North Texas Tent Institute. We're all over. I mean, you can go on our website, you can go on Facebook, you can go on Instagram. We're all over. We update daily of what we're doing and who we're involved with. We're out and about throughout the Metroplex, just sharing our message, our mission in our school, just letting people know who we are and that it's a trade that we're very, very proud of, we're very passionate about to share with other people, and that it's okay if you decide to go on the trade route versus going to the university route. And it's okay because trade is you're going to learn a skill and you're going to go right into the workforce. Going into the university side, you're going to obviously go through, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of schooling and then hope and pray that you're going to get a job afterward.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. But we just want to be available and share our trade.
So people can have options.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.